In the previous lesson, we went over using levels in Photoshop. In this lesson, you'll learn about curves in Photoshop, which is a little bit more versatile than the levels adjustment, but it's also really easy to mess up an image using curve, but I'll show you how to accurately use it. So go ahead and open up an image. I have sunset.jpg and kelly.jpg, and we can of course do an adjustment layer, or we can go to image, adjustments, and then curves, either way. I'm going to use this one because it's a little bit larger, and you can see it on the screen. And you'll see some of the same things in levels. For example, we have setting the black point, the white point, and then the gray point. And just like in levels, we can adjust the red, green, or blue channels one at a time, or RGB all at the same time. So I'm going to move this a little bit over the side so you can see the effect. How this works is, a lot of people come in here and they're not really sure what is going on. Like, they'll click and drag this up here, click and drag that down. A lot of people like to make kind of an S-curve. And then you can click and drag these little nodes that we create, and it just changes the look, the tonality of the image down there. If you want to get rid of these nodes, like if you create too many and you're like, oh, I don't need this one here, you can click and drag it just off, and it will remove it. And so I'm going to hit cancel and just go back right into it. Image, adjustments, curves, and you'll see over here this little endpoint. This is the darkest point. Got output 0, input 0. If you remember those words from levels, there's a reason. So if I click this up here, output 255, 255. So if you notice, if I click and drag this one in the upper right-hand corner and bring it to the left, see what it's doing? It's making the light areas lighter. So that's just like as if we were in image, adjustments, levels, and then right over here, making the light areas lighter. Same effect. So that's input levels. So if you go to image, adjustments, curves, and let's bring this one down and set it to the left, that is affecting the output, and you can see the number right there. So you could take that number and enter it into levels and have the same effect. So if you take this point in the upper right hand corner and move it to the left along the top there, it's going to bring the input down, so it's making the lighter. And then if you bring it along the edge of the right hand side there, it makes the lighter darker. Same thing with the bottom left hand corner. If you bring it up, it makes the darker lighter, because that's affecting the output. And then if you bring it to the right along the bottom there, it makes the darker darker. And you can also manually do this with input, these little sliders here as well. Now, curves gives us a little bit more customizability though, because we can also click these nodes again in here and just really customize how dark and light the dark and lighter areas of the image are. So you can even out that tone a little bit. You can really mess it up a lot more easily than levels, as you can see there. We do want to be careful with the levels unless you're going for some special effect, like something way off like that, like a negative. You can go to the presets up here. There's a couple interesting presets like color negative. So it has the negative effect, cross process, darker, increased contrast lighter. Some of those you see in the levels as well. And then negative. So if I go back to image, adjustment, levels, there are not some of those negative ones, okay? Because it's not possible to really do that in here. We can only do increased contrast, darker, lighter, midtones adjustments, and you can click and drag these back and forth, and you'll notice it's making it lighter and darker compared to the rest of the image where the shadows and lights and mid-tone values are. But if we go back to curves, there's a little bit more customizability. So why would you use this? Well, one more thing to check out is, besides just trying to overall color correct something, just adjust the lighting, the tonality, we can also click in the lower right hand corner. There's a little, looks like a scrub zoom icon, like when we're zooming in, but or if we're adjusting numbers on a menu. But if you click it, then you can actually sample in here, and you'll notice as I sample, hover over the mouse on the image, it's moving where this little circle is along this line there. So what I can do, let's just say we wanted this grass to pop out more, you can click it and bring it up and down and make that specific tonal range brighter or darker. So let's say this light area here, I bring it down, it's just like I'm making the lighter areas darker. So let's try one more example here. If I open up sunset, this one's a bit underexposed, especially in the foreground, and it's a little bit overexposed with the lens flare in the background. So instead of doing a image adjustment, let's just do the same thing, but with an adjustment layer. So go to the bottom layers panel, click that, and then go to curves. Same menu, just a little bit different where things are. So click there on the hand, and you can click and drag, and just bring those green tones up a little bit. And then in the background here, if we bring that down just a little, not too much. Then we've got more of an even color here in the image. Still not perfect, but you can kind of see the before and then the after. You can see this is very underexposed, the original image here with the histogram. You can see the kind of the mountain range here off the edge there. And there's a little bit of overexposed areas, you can see, not as much, but over on the right hand side. So instead of just dragging with the curve here, we could try that. But again, you can just click and drag in an image and just click and drag up and down, and it will affect just that specific part of the line there. You can also draw a curve. I mean, I'm not sure too many people do this, but if you just had an idea of a curve, you can click and drag it up like that, and then go back to there, and then you've got a custom curve. But I find just keeping it just straight like that, and then clicking and dragging in the image, or if you can make an S curve to make kind of it pop more, but it really depends on the image, of course. When you have the adjustment layer, also, if you click down here on that little arrow, it's going to reset it to the original adjustment default. So that's handy if you really mess up an image and you've got this going all over the place, and you're like, you just want to bring it back to the originals. Then just click that arrow, and then you can start from scratch. You can click this hand here, and then just start editing it again to adjust that photo. So that's the curves adjustment. It can be pretty useful when you're adjusting lighting, tonality in an image, and also when you want certain colors to pop a little bit more. But as far as making colors pop even more than this, where they're just more visible due to the lighting levels, we'll cover that after we cover adjusting brightness and contrast in the next lecture. In the lecture after next, we're going to go over hue adjustments a little bit